right, we are on a roll today. I'm just, I can't get enough of talking to all of these amazing service leaders and all the insights. Honestly, I feel like I've got an MBA today for attending this event. And I've got another amazing service leader here with me, Jatin. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Glad to be here, Yasin.
Yes, I attended your first session. It was actually the first session I attended, and it was a panel discussion around lifecycle management approach to service. And the key question that was posed to the panel is, what does it mean? What does lifecycle management mean, and why you should explore this holistic approach? And it was, it was one of the most eye-opening sessions to me, because typically in my work with a lot of service companies, we're focused on that break fix part of the asset in the asset life cycle. So listening to you and to your insights and to your peers really opened up my eyes that, well, there's a lot that we actually do before we actually come on site and fix the machine, and after we go or after we fix the machine post-service, there's a lot that can be done post-service and a lot of things that could be done pre-service. So I'm excited to really dig into how you approach life cycle management at Carestream. But please give us a quick introduction about your role and what you do, and then we'll dig in.
Oh, absolutely. So this is Jatin Thakkar. I'm the General Manager for Services and Solutions at Carestream Health. We make medical devices, extra devices primarily. And this was amazing. You get to learn a lot from your peers in these industry conferences. And we've had a lot of fun so far. So, and this is the topic at hand. So when we look at service lifecycle management, essentially it's been a journey. Traditionally, as you talked about.
What is life cycle management? Can you define life cycle management for us?
Absolutely. When you say life cycle management, is what we call full effective life of the equipment or asset that you have purchased. Typically, when customers buy high capital equipment, whether it be an X-ray room or a car, it's not a small purchase, right? You own it for 7 to 10 years. And what that means is, over the effective life of the equipment, 10 years or beyond, are the customers getting optimum utilization of the equipment? Are they getting all the outcomes that are needed for it? Whether it to generate revenue, whether to solve cases, in our case, whether to treat patients. And what we in the service organization want to ensure that right after that initial purchase, all the way through the life of the equipment, every single year in and year out, you are getting optimal use of that equipment and essentially achieving your outcomes as best as we can. So that's what we call life cycle management. And if you look at it from the customer's point of view, the investments they have made, they want to make sure that it gives fruit for those 10 plus years. And with COVID and some of the challenges in the industry, those cycles are getting stretched. So typically you would, replace things from 10 years. Now customers want to stretch them for 12 to 15 years. And we want to still ensure that they can continue to do what they need to do, operate at the right efficiency, and not have degraded service through the life of that equipment, whatever they choose it to be.
Absolutely. So then the key question that poses itself, as the asset owner that and I just bought from you this piece of equipment, my key question is, well, beyond just keeping the equipment running, which is table stakes, it's good, it's necessary, but what can you do? What can you do beyond just keeping the machine running? So how do you answer that question, Jatin?
Oh, absolutely. So as you said, it's very important. First priority is make sure the equipment is running correctly. And all equipment manufacturers and service companies need to do that. Beyond that, some of the things we look at, and that's most valuable based on customer feedback, is not only keep this equipment running, tell me, are we using this optimally? So analytic solutions, the device tells us information. How many times it's used, what level, how much power it's drawing, how many images it took. Can all that information be collectively provided to the customers in ways they can use it and continue to optimize their operations? Training and application services. Are the customers educated on all the features, all the capabilities, all the enhancements they have bought with the product? Are they adequately trained to use them? Can we make sure that we can train them and explain to them all the different features so they can get maximum utilization? So, analytical services, training services, refresher services, and sometimes through different life cycles, upgrade services. So, if there is a new software version available for the product, if there is an additional component we can add on to the product to make it more useful, those upgrade services we can provide, either at cost or at upcharge if needed. But make sure that the customer has everything that they can use for that equipment. So beyond just keeping it running, keeping it optimally running is the key word going forward.
And how do you track this optimal use? Like, it sounds like you guys have IoT integrated into a lot of your assets.
Many times we have IoT integrated, and in some cases, even where we don't have that ability or if the equipment cannot be remotely connected, every time we go on site, every time we talk to our customers, every time there's a support call, we like to get information on the usage of the equipment, what are the different problems they have been having, how are they utilizing the different features, collect all that information. And not only for that customer, as service owners, we see that across many different customers. So we want to educate them that if they are not using it as per their peers, or they are not using certain capabilities that other customers are using, how do we collectively make sure that every single customer is able to benefit from these features? So those are some of the things we work with our customers on and continue to provide ongoing.
So that's fascinating. But how do you get the data from the field? How do you collect all of that information? Especially if do you use like third parties, service providers that you partner with, like a service network?
A combination of, so we have our internal service technicians. When they go, we have tools and technology where they record every single transaction, how the machine was used, every feature.
Is it just using like an ERP app, or do you
very
use any
similar
specific-
CRM, but we have given them enhanced mobile applications to do that. So right at the point when they're on the machine, they can record all that information. In some cases, we have enabled portals where not only third-party providers, but the customers themselves can tell us information. So if the machine has a certain error code in case of a problem, or the machine is asking for certain features, we have enabled portals where the customers themselves can communicate and add to our systems. So however the customer, or they can always pick up the phone and call into our support centers with the same information. We provide different ways for the customer to enable us to get the information. And absolutely, the holy grail is if the device is connected electronically, I can always log in anytime and get that information. So we prefer them to be remotely connected, but where we cannot, we have other avenues to get the same information.
Absolutely. And when you talk about data services or analytics services, what do you exactly mean by that?
So a couple different things. One is just around the health and the utilization of the equipment. So how many clicks, how many hours it was used, is it going up, down? In case of electrical, how much power it was using. So that's basic equipment analysis. The other thing is, what is the customer use case that they are using the equipment for? So in our case, when they're serving patients, how many patients did you see a day? What was the average time of it took to service a patient? How many patients had to come in for repeat visits? And this is not important as much to me to keep the equipment running, but for our customers, this is to enhance their workflow, their business, their outcomes. And this is really powerful data that we can provide from the machine and our knowledge back to our customers so they can continue to optimize their operations.
That's fascinating. So, and how did that practically impact the operation of your client? Like, what is a real use case example where data analytics or really enabled the customer in a meaningful way?
Yeah, a couple things I'll tell you, very specific. One is in big hospitals, for example, multiple technicians use the equipment. What we can do with our analysis over time and over months is show them usage by technician, so they can compare if certain technicians need some training, if certain technicians are not using certain features, or if certain technicians are not utilizing certain study parameters. So they can use that to train the staff better, give the patients a better experience, and ensure that their staff trained optimally. That's one. Number two is we look across customers. So this customer has a particular set of use cases, but we can say across the industry, certain hospitals are doing this and certain hospitals are doing that. and pool all that information. Obviously, we don't want to give out individual customer information, but pool out it collectively and make sure the best practices, the top elements are shared widely across customers so they can learn from each other, not just from their different equipment. So these two uses, we've actually used a few different times, and we see the benefits that the customers are getting from this data.
Awesome. And so, yeah, I mean, everywhere you go, every session you go into, you hear data. And a lot of it seems to me a little bit aspirational, but it's great to finally actually see a practical example of how organizations like Carestream is actually leveraging data today. We're not talking about the future of data, but we're talking about the utilization of data and the leverage that we could get from data to enable our customers, and that's through asset tracking, and not just the tracking of it, but leveraging those insights. So how do you get those insights? How do you push those insights to the customer from all of this, millions, maybe tens of millions of data points? How do you aggregate it together and then push it to the customer and extrapolate insights out of this data and make it simple enough for the customer to understand it, but then to put it into work to increase that life cycle of the equipment?
Right. So as you said, we are at the precipice of a journey here. So we get tons of data from all our devices. So one of the key things we do is collect everything, start seeing patterns, and see what are the top one or two use cases that can help us drive real benefits. Because I can collect a lot of data, right? Even a simple thing as a phone feeds me tons of data every minute. Some of it is just information, and that's fine. So what we like to do is understand our customers' workflow. What is their outcomes? The most important thing is when somebody purchases an asset, what are they trying to achieve? In this case, better patient health, better patient throughput. So how do we use the data from the machines to tell them, if you do this, you can see more patients a day, for example. Or if you see this, your patients will have a better experience.
Yeah.
So look at what the customers are trying to achieve, not what the equipment is trying to achieve, and use some of the data to do that to what your customer is trying to achieve as an outcome. Because for them, the equipment is a tool to essentially achieve their outcome of, in this case, patient health.
That's fascinating, because what's fascinating about it is the customer centricity in your innovation process and in your delivery, and how you're putting the customer at the center of the entire process. So I love that. So, okay, great. So other than data and analytics solutions, what are the other pillars of your lifecycle management? You rattled off like 3-4 things.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is the thing is, as we understand this more, now that, since years we have not had easy access to this data, now that we get more and more, and we see in real life, I'll call it, how the equipment is utilized and how it's practically used, all of this data we can feed back into our development and engineering teams. So future version of the products, they can make even more optimal. We see what features customers are using, what buttons they prefer, what they don't prefer, and we can start to build this into future products. So it's a continuous learning cycle. We are learning from real data, and next version of the product incorporates some of that feedback. And so it continuously improves not only the experience, but also the product applicability for the customer use case. So that's one big thing we're doing. Now, obviously that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's a cycle through the next development cycle, but that's the stuff we have started feeding into our development teams. And we are excited that now this is another way of getting the voice of the customer into a development cycle. We are building products based on what the customers are telling us. So that's what excites us even more. There's only so much I can do with the product that's there today, but how do you use that to influence the product of the future? And so this builds on itself, and it's a happy loop to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So more leverage of the data to feed other to feed the product roadmap.
Yes, and the development
and development, and make sure that not only you are leveraging the data for immediate. How do you leverage the data for immediate use? Is extrapolate insights for the end user to help them in extending that life cycle of the asset, and primarily by really tying that data to the outcome. and showcasing the ROI or the value of how this asset is impacting their operation and the metrics that they care about and the outcomes that they care about. But don't stop there. Take that and double down on it and send that its data to the engineering team to inform the product development. So I love that. And then you touched on earlier as one of the levers, you touched on enablement and explaining to the customer all the different features. I mean, customers are overwhelmed. They've got not only you're not the only one that you've sold them a machine, right? They probably have tens, if not hundreds,
Yes.
of other machines that they need to learn. And so how do you make it easy for the customer to increase their utilization and use the machine in an optimal way? Like, what are some of the breakthrough insights that you had about enablement and enabling the customer to increase their usage and a better utilization of the machine?
And that's a great question. And there again, the data helps us a lot because every customer is unique. Even if I take the same equipment, like a portable X-ray room, whether it's built in a health clinic or an emergency room, hospital, or a screening center, they have different use cases, right? One's used on critical use cases, one's used on routine exams. So understanding that unique customer workflow on how that customer is using the equipment, we can now tailor our applications training, systems training to those use cases to say that if you're a screening center, this is the best way to use the equipment. If you're in an emergency room situation, because this piece of technology, like any other, can do multiple factors. And how do we ensure that rather than build a generic training or one document that comes with your product, we ensure that the application is specific to the customer use. And we use the data to see how they're using, what types of applications they use, to then train them essentially on those use cases a lot more. So that's how we use this
Are
data.
you collecting those requirements up front, or you're collecting these as
Both. Absolutely, we like to correct upfront, but as you know, in some cases, not only us, the customer themselves may not know all the nuances.
Right,
So,
exactly.
so it's a cycle. We do the initial application training with the best knowledge we have. We monitor it for the first couple months of use, and then we see what procedures are you using, what parameters are you using, and we do a refresher focused just on that content.
And how are you delivering this enablement? Like, how are you delivering this enablement and this training?
Multiple ways. For real critical things, we have live training. We can have our specialists go into the hospitals and train the customers on the equipment. We do have some remote training courses where they can log into our system and learn the features. And last but not least, we have several apps, features, portals where if they want a specific capability, how do I take this shot in this modularity, or how do I do this procedure? They can look up small videos or small articles to specifically focus on a specific feature. So multiple ways, all the way from a full training in-house solution to on-demand access video clips for certain small things.
That's interesting. The on-demand access. So you built like a library of all the knowledge about
Tooltips, knowledge, top features.
and it's personalized down to the use case.
Correct. So if they want to say, how do I do this and this, you can go to say page 3 or module 2 and then just look at that. So and again, some of this is a work in progress. The more we learn, the more we understand, we can continue to build on this capability and provide more tools for our customers and our technicians to.
And how did you tie the data, the usage data, and worked it back to the account level and then to inform the training and development? Like, you must have undergone Herculean effort into data integration and system integration.
There was a significant amount of first-time thing, but the job is not done, right? This is a continuous cycle. So we implement it based on what we have, and we want to continue to learn, because as we keep doing it, and not only that, the customers' needs also change over time, right? Like whatever we thought procedures were happening at time of COVID, everything changed, and now things are changing again. So we want to continue to learn on if the customers' requirements and their outcomes are changing, and then continue to start building that. So yes, there is an initial investment, but I think the key is continuing to improve on that methodology and continue to refine it and optimize it ongoing.
I love it. We talked about analytic solutions. We talked about enablement from a training perspective, personalized use. So leverage data to extrapolate insights and tie the data to the outcome and surface that data that relates to the outcome and drives that performance of the asset and showcases ROI. And then leverage also the data for product engineering and iterations, new iterations on the equipment. And then the second lever is using training, whether it's on-site or delivered through an LMS like online, or even in a knowledge base. So on-site training, online training, and then knowledge base, like short video micro, if I may call it micro
refresher modules.
Modules. What other elements of your life cycle, your approach to life cycle management, what other leverage do you use to enable the the extension of the asset life?
So those are the top areas for, as I said, current products and current customers. And then the last thing we talked about is feeding all that into the next generation products. Obviously, that helps us ongoing. It doesn't help the current customers, but it helps future products and future customers. And continuing to provide that feedback loop ongoing is what we want to build on.
Awesome. Do you use any remote support?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Well, what kind of remote support do
So
you?
basic things like error log cleanups, software updates, a lot of those things we can do remotely. If the equipment is connected and then customers have permissions for remote access, we can do a lot of these things like patch updates, security updates, software things we can do remotely. Certain things where obviously you need a technician to turn a wrench, we have to go on site to do that.
Well, this Jatin has been fascinating. I'm more on the I'm more. I've always looked at this from a service life cycle. What changed for me today is looking at not just the service cycle, but look at the asset life cycle, and that really expanded my view of the industry and all the different jobs that are across this asset life cycle that has to be accomplished to really impact the equipment performance. So I'm sure I'm going. If you have any questions for Jatin on his approach to life cycle management, please chime in the comments and let me know. Because I'm definitely going to be bringing Jatin on. I'm putting him on the spot here. I'll be bringing in Jatin to go deeper into a lot of these topics because 20 minutes is just not going to do this justice. So Jatin, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Always a pleasure. And we, as I said, end of the day, it's about the customer, and we want to do everything we can to enable them.
Absolutely. And this is there's a new new school of innovation called Jobs to be Done. I don't know if you've heard of Jobs to be Done, but it's popularized by Tony Alwick. And what the job theory is all about is focusing on the job that the customer is trying to do and not the solution. Focus on the job and the desired outcome, and your innovation will be long lasting, right? Because solutions come and go, but the job that the customer is trying to get done never change. What changes is the solution, but not the job. So it's quite fascinating to see a lot of parallels in your approach to innovation. And I'm looking forward to digging into more on upcoming episodes and mastermind sessions that we'll be having at FXL.com. So folks, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment, and make sure to connect with Jatin on LinkedIn. And again, thank you so much for your insights today, and I'm looking forward to future conversations.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.